Hello and welcome to tonight's edition of Defacto Review English version. We bring to you the biggest stories shaping Mongolia. Here with us tonight, commentator and economist Drago Defacto.
Good evening.
And I am Milena Mendes. We are live on Facebook on MNB World page, and also we love to hear your thoughts, so join us on Twitter using the hashtag #Jargle_Defacto. Coming up on the show tonight. Officials torture. What is next from Mongolia's law? Journalists watch video where Zurich's murder defendants are tortured for confession. And the new challenge for public governance is President Batoga directing all government decisions to himself? And finally, is the history of poor land management in UB being repeated with the Hushik Valley Airport construction? Look, in countries that abide by the rules of law, courts punish those who engage in torture. Now we have video evidence of torture taking place in Mongolia, and we wonder what is going to happen next. 3 suspects were sentenced to 24 to 25 years in prison for the 1998 murder of S. Zurich, a prominent Mongolian politician who we talked about on this show last week. Zurich was a parliament minister in Mongolia who also led the democracy movement in the country in the 90s, and he was murdered in his own home. His death case remains unsolved to this day. A video of the defendants being tortured for a confession was shown at the Parliament House this last Friday, the 29th, to around 200 journalists, with the use of cameras prohibited. Members of the parliament saw the video 2 days before it was exposed to the media members. The 27-minute-long video was played in the presence of Cabinet Secretariat El Oyun Erden, Minister of Justice and Internal Affairs Tsen Yamdarj, and General Intelligence Agency officials who offered some explanations on the video. Now, Jargle, let's move on to our questions. There are high expectations in society because everyone now wants to see this video, whether for curiosity or for bigger issues behind it. And Mongolian politicians are deciding whether or not it should become public. So what is your intake on this?
Well, this video to be shown to public in spite of those warnings by the politicians, so that this terrible case of torturing in the court, in the prison rooms, not happened again in Mongolia. Let's have a bigger picture now, what exactly happened. As you said, Zarigo is killed in his home, murdered 20 years ago, and until now we don't know who are the murderer and why he did it. And the recent legal case shows, said that they have found 3 killers and they have taken this prison terms, but now it turned out they were confessed under the torture. So now I think Mongolian democracy faces the severe, hardest test today. And it's good that we know that. And after a year or so after they sent to prison for 24, 25, 6 years, and it's good that we don't have this capital punishment law. If we had it, they already had that by that time killed, and later on it will be too late to correct. So now what's happening is they found out this evidence of video torturing this woman, man in prison by people turned out sent from the other force, the enforcement agencies. Most probably they said that General Intelligence Agency, 2 officers were arrested afterwards. And these 2 were somehow, they have renewed that recording of that camera was recorded secretly even for those. And all the prisoner things was happening, this torture was happening in a room in the basement of a prison, which is regarded as not relevant for keeping people in prison. So that's what had happened. And now we are learning more and more, And more than that, the Ministry of Justice, Nyamdort, said that it is arranged by 4 to 5 prosecutors, including the one, Mr. Bayir Magne, in the city prokuror office. It's unacceptable. And it shows again how much still we have this security enforcement agencies against all our people, own people, like 1930s. The Mongolians have repressed, killed about 40,000 Mongolians under the instruction of Russian Stalin regime people. And now it's happening now, today. They are torturing. It's unacceptable. So people get so angry, and journalists were commenting that too. So this video should be seen by every Mongolians.
And how do you see all these events coming together? Because we don't know if there is anyone planning to solve this Dzurig's murder case, or if it's just another way for them to make headlines. What do you think?
Well, Dzurig murder case was, we had always in the center of our attention, because that time when they have prison sentenced these 3 persons, 1 woman, 2 men, they said that they killed Dzurig by request, by booking of somebody, by request of somebody. But they never said by request of whom. Whom? Never said. And from that moment, people was very suspicious about that. And finally, they have discovered all the situation happened. And it is because we had some chance to reconsider all this things. We had some political chances. We will talk about that a little bit later. But by today, General Prokuror is fired, and his deputy, Mr. Ertenbat, who was blamed by Mr. Nyamdorj in particular, being the whole organizer of all these things. But it is not clear who was the mastermind behind it. And that's the questions remaining open for Mongolians, in front of Mongolian society. Well,
Mr. Biambardorj, the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission, he made an important statement on the confession video. Can you please share it with our viewers? And what do you think of this?
Yeah, we have a Human Rights National Commission. We have 3 commissioners. Mr. Biambardorj is the head, because this, out of 3 commissioners, the head is nominated by the parliament. And he, 2 or 3 times, he has been extended for 3 years. But however, he made a statement that he received complaints by the people, parents, relatives of those 3 people, who was saying that this is wrong. This is they are doing it the wrong way. They had to confess it under the torture. He was sending several letters to all the related agencies, including this prokuror and the judge and the anti-corruption agency. He got a letter from city prokuror that this is under strong confidentiality case, so they cannot disclose. And that's what he said, that that's the reason why he could not make major actions. Then people said, look, he has the only position. Mongolia is a democratic country. We respect international laws above our national laws. Mm-hmm. That means, in particular in this case, where the people are tortured and they have been violating just simple human rights. And this guy was sitting that because it's a confidential case, we cannot do. Unacceptable, and people are so much discontent and not happy with this man, and now they are demanding online on social media his resignations, because the Mongolians, they don't want to see these enforcement agencies like the socialist time, ruling you, what you even tell, what you eat, we don't accept that. So this commissioner guy has a problem now among public.
So listen to this. The Minister of Justice and Internal Affairs, Nyamdorj, publicly apologized for the confession video. Just before he apologized, though, he said that he had never given an official apology before, and he repeated it twice. But making sure this mistake isn't repeated is more important than his apology.
Correct.
So, what do you believe he's planning to do now?
Whatever he is planning, we demand one thing. All these people should be held responsible. Those who were interrogating them, who were making possible all this, who were in presence, who masterminded, who were supported, who was later on tried to destroy the recording in the cabinet of General Intelligence Agency officer's office, and they were enforced to restore that video, which was available now for seeing. So it's very clear that our enforcement agencies altogether, in particular Mongolian Procureur Office, is very much involved, and they were doing it under certain political purposes. And now, so far, the two procureurs resigned or fired, to be said, and the Supreme Court, General Judge of Mongolia, Mr. Dzörgtis, resigned himself with his own request, and now now it is the line of Mr. Inkjargal, who is the head of anti-corruption agency. And again, by the recent amendments we'll talk about later, his case will be discussed at the next meeting, next week, Friday, our really great National Choral Parliament sessions. So I think these major three figures of the major three enforcement agencies will be replaced. But now the issue is, so what will happen after?
Yeah.
I mean, whether there will be the same case again or not. Any case, you cannot violate the human rights under any conditions, in particular making or calling it a confidential agreement. This is unacceptable.
Well, you just mentioned about the amendments. Let's move on to our second topic. During the March 27th irregular session, the Mongolian parliament voted to amend the law on the legal status of judges and other amendments proposed by the Mongolian president, Batolga Haltma. But prominent lawyers have criticized the amendments, saying that they undermine Mongolia's constitutional separation of powers between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of the government, and that they threaten judicial independence in Mongolia. They are about to file an appeal with their last hope of change, the Constitutional Court of Mongolia. And it is reported that they are collecting 1,000 signatures for a petition. Let's go to our questions. It is being said that one of the three branches of the government was broken by these amendments made by President Batolga. So what do you think of this?
First of all, these branches are broken anyway. So you cannot break it twice, okay? Now, vice versa, they try to fix it.
By not fixing it.
And with this law provisions change, which basically says that National Council of the Council of National Security, if they recommend, they can make a change in the status of these people, which basically says that if they recommend, they can discuss at the parliament, they can fire them, which is necessary step towards, again, restoring the lost values, okay? But the other concern is whether it will be used next time again, those who is new, the heads of these agencies. That's a separate question. It depends on the maturity of a Mongolian democracy and the activity of the Mongolian citizens' participation in these actions. So basically, they are making this, but this council decision is made by three persons: the speaker, the president, and the prime minister. And Mr. Huruzsukh, with his new speaker, is 70%, let's say, of it is the vote. Mm-hmm. The three guys are doing the same decisions. And Huruzsukh, who had promised that he will fight for the interests of Mongolia, he is not afraid even if he's dead. That's what he said somehow. And that's, I think, what is he doing. And nowadays, at least we found out the case, torture, and now finally the 2-3 officials are fired. Now the next issue will be many other issues which has been created under this not clear, transparent government in Mongolia. And it's good that we came to this level, that we are more revealing the facts, what happened exactly. And I think after this during murder, torture issues, not only replacing these people, but they are expected other decisions, including, for example, the state want to arrest certain officials under the other cases, and the prosecutor was never given permission. Now I think they will get the permission because they have own arguments that they are right. So I think it is just the beginning of major shift in the democratic institutions of Mongolia, which today we found out very fragile, very young, and still a lot of speculations, a lot of corruptions, and I think we will make a step better towards better Mongolia.
And look, Mongolia is a parliamentary democracy, right? But Mongolian presidents, both in the past and now, have had a lot of influence on important sectors. Jargal, do you think Mongolia is in need of a presidential institution after everything that's happening?
Well, the blame is coming from, for example, very clearly from Mr. Nyamdorj, Minister of Justice. He said that the last president was the key person to confuse everything. He was too much intervening into independence of the judicial system, nominating everybody, new people who feel obliged to pay back him with his following whatever he said decisions. So if it is the case that yes, Mongolian president, though it is supposed to be a very symbolic figure, but it turned out under the last president having a right to even propose a law, to amend law, draft, and to this kind of, it was so much slowly extending. At the end, the guy is almost running the country, 100% in particular the judicial part of it, which again, supposed to be accountant and mutually balancing each other, right? Which is broken already. So that's why people are raising questions about the need of the presidential power in the society. Do we need these institutions or not? But there's also broader discussions on maybe Mongolia has need to have maybe 2 chambers parliament, like many countries with Senate, for example. In Chile, for example, few people sitting in Senate. And in the US, the Senate is every 2 years, 1/3 is changed, for example, so the continuity is there, etc. So we are looking for a new type of new structure of the governance. We tested this one for the last 30 years. Now there are things which is not working. And so now Mongolia is in the process of discussing amendments in our constitution. Whether this current power can do it or not, I don't know. Whether they can complete it or not, people are very much against it. But ideally, in 2020, when we have general elections, those people who are coming to power, we expect there will be much more people from these 2 political parties. And so expectation is these 2 political parties will be a lot lower, very lower, until the level that they don't have even power. So that's the prediction, or that's the poll says today. 85% don't support these 2 political parties. So if the new people come, if we have a new parliament, then ideally these new people discuss amendments of the constitution, they change it, they make a better structure, then they resign all of them, and we call back again new election, which will make finally new legal representative of our country.
You have just mentioned, let's make it more clear for our viewers, these amendments will increase the power of the National Security Council. And the members are the President himself, the Prime Minister, and the Speaker of Parliament, as Jargal just stated. So who stands behind the benefits from the increased power of the NSC? Because we know that something similar is happening in Kazakhstan. Can you please tell to our viewers?
Yeah, in Kazakhstan, the case is a little bit different. Mr. Nazarbayev took a power of that Council of Security with all the military, all this, different than our military, all the enforcement agencies in his hand. And yet he had interim president he nominated, who was the former head of the Senate, the higher upper of chamber of the parliament. And then Nazarbayev's daughter is becoming the head of that Senate, with the aim that she is becoming a head of with the president is speaking about, and according to all international observations and writings. So, and plus Kazakhstan has 30 years of authoritarian regime, so it's completely different than Mongolia. And I think down the road, because also Mongolia is a small country, 10 million, just one person, and when it's easier to impact on him because we almost know each other very well. So probably the institutions is going to be a little bit different, but not like the case of Kazakhstan. Uncomparable. Mongolian people are more democratic. Now we have already new generations who has no idea about dictatorship. So I think it's a different country. And what's happening today shows again that this is a democratic country, and we will be more democratic country than before, after all these things must be clear. And in a year from now, Mongolia has a completely different political landscape and power, which is good for the country, and we believe it is the consequences of all this error and mistakes what we have been doing. I mean, who had not? Every country had gone through this road. So we are here, and good thing is we discuss. Good thing is that everybody knows what's happening with the social media, etc. They demand more transparency. So I think we will be a more mature country in terms of democracy than before.
Next year we have elections, so we're really hoping things are going to change. Let's go to our last topic of the night. It has been 11 years since the new Ulaanbaatar International Airport project began. It is presently under construction 52 kilometers south of Ulaanbaatar in the Tuv province, and it's nearly finished. The new airport is designed to have double the capacity of the current Chinggis Khan International Airport. The construction has been financed by a Japanese concessional loan totaling $540 million to be repaid over the course of 40 years. The airport will connect to the capital through a new highway. The construction of this highway is being funded by a Chinese loan and is nearly complete. So let's go to our questions. There are complaints that Mongolia has failed to finish the highway's construction, and they are being currently dealt with. But that's not the only challenge. What other challenges are is the project facing right now? And are there solutions for them?
Yeah, the road, 32 kilometers road, asphalt road under the Chinese money and Chinese company. They made it, and looks like a good professional international road, highway, and we still need a railway to be connected with this airport. Airport management will be done by the Japanese side, and the contract is almost done, not yet signed, and the Prime Minister expectation things to be opened by Nadam, July 11th, which probably sounds more unrealistic today. But however, this airport will be run by these Japanese professionals who are running also Haneda and the Narita airports in Tokyo, professionals. And I hope we will have a very good run airport. Mongolians, we keep changing our government for every 2 years because that the ministers are changing, bureaucracies change, plans are delayed. That's what's happening with all our projects, unfortunately. So Japanese have made the airport, building everything, runaway all on time, a year before or 1.5 years before. And by the way, this loan, concessional loan from Japan, we start to pay already last December because 10 years is elapsed. Yeah. Then project is not yet finished. So it's again to blame our non-professional government. But finally they have done it. The airport, finally the road is there, probably because China was doing that. Anyway, so airport is there, but what is missing is this contract, still missing. Second, the issue of kerosene, the fuel, airlines fuels issue. And they are a little bit, again, I was writing about that. Russia, Rosneft has a big interest to come in. They have signed in Mongolia it was called the Memorandum of Understanding, but in Russian it was called pre-contract conditions. So I don't know why Mongolians named or Russians named it in two different names. It may cause more confusion because again we should not be completely dependent on the Russian. Even 5% we should have some access to the south, to China. Even it's maybe 10 times expensive, but we should not lose this freedom, which like many other countries did, neighbor to Russia, because Russia has a policy with the energy rather aggressive, more they punish with grants, discount prices if they're good. If they are not good, against talking too much against Russia, they just punish with other ways. They just even stop the supply, increase the prices. So we don't want that. So that's the second issue I think missing. The third issue is the planning of the city around this new airport. Good news was, I think, the Incheon, Seoul, Korea, Incheon urban developer companies are helping us to make that design, which hopefully will make better.
Yeah.
But still the airport is very small, I think, even new one. I think it will be increased, it will be needed to increase again and again very soon. But however, first time we complete that international standard project. A lot of things to learn, still some things beyond the deadlines. So let's see. I'm not sure they can do it on time. But the other issue is also about the land around the airport. It turned out this Tuv Amak Sirgeleng Som governor had given the land to some private companies. And now there were some fights, courts, but finally I have heard that this company is refusing, finally leaving away everything. So probably we will have a normal satellite town to the airport because Mongolians cannot run every morning 60 kilometers for their office. So something new is happening, which is hopefully good for our terrible traffic jam.
Yes, hopefully it's going to be a little bit of a solution. If you just got to watch the show right now and if you're a foreigner, Drago mentioned the Nadam Festival. Nadam is a national festival here in Mongolia, probably the biggest one because summer is the time where most tourists are attracted to the country. So it is indeed a need for the country to finish this project. As we have been saying, 11 years is too much. So as we're approaching the final minutes of the show, do you have any last comments?
Well, happy to share this time with you and thank you very much for watching us. We try to be that independent voice of a reality, the truth in the country, in the languages also, in Mongolian, in English, and in the Russian. And our Russian program is broadcast in Russia, Siberia too. Thank you.
Well, if you missed the beginning of the show, don't worry. We're live on Facebook at MNB World page, and it's going to be published there. Help us to share it with your friends because we're trying to bring Mongolia to the world. And as we're approaching the final minutes of the show, I'd like to personally thank you for staying with us tonight and keep studying what is happening with Mongolia, especially in the politics and economy fields. And if you don't understand, it's okay. Every Sunday, 7 p.m., you can tune in on MNB World, and we're going to be explaining to you the biggest stories happening. Thank you so much for staying with us tonight, and have a good night, Mongolia.
One is the fund of future.